Picking up where we left off, which is point number 4 of our ongoing series again, why there will be no middle class. Number 4, automation and outsourcing. As things get more automated and outsourced via things like artificial intelligence and outsourced just based on the fact that uh, things can be passed on to other people to do things for you or do things well for you if you're running a business, and it can be outsourced and let's just call it outsourced to, let's say, people overseas who have a lower standard of living, therefore they need less money to supply their lifestyles than you may need here in the United States of America. Then what's going to happen is jobs are going to get squeezed. There will be fewer jobs. Jobs will pay less money, and it will be more, take it or leave it opportunities, take it or leave it offers made to people who work in the United States of America simply because your employers have options available to them or will have options available to them in the future that may not be available to them yet, or maybe they just aren't aware and haven't taken advantage of them yet, but they may be working on it right now. And as computing power increases, as general technology advances, and these things are moving faster than human beings are capable of moving, computing power, technology, artificial intelligence, etc., there's going to be less jobs and less money available for a human to work a job, especially in America, because America has a relatively high standard of living. In other words, it costs more money to live in America than it does in many other countries in the world. But those people have access to technology. Those people can operate computers. Those people know how to code. They can do a whole lot of things, especially online, that we do here online. So what makes you necessary when I could hire someone in another country who needs 20% of what you need financially in order to survive and be happy with the pay that they're getting from their work? This is an important question that any of you who does work that could be replaced by another person, you need to ask yourself. What you need to ask yourself that question, you need an answer. You need to come up with an answer to that question. If you are an entry level worker, for example, you are not competing against other entry level workers for jobs and opportunities. So you're not competing against some immigrant coming from another country legally or illegally for a job. What you're competing against is computer chips, software code, and artificial intelligence. That's your actual competition. And let me let you in on the secret. That's a race that you will not win. You're not going to beat them because they're faster than you. These things move a lot faster than any human being can. They are more efficient than human beings, and they cost less money than human beings. So why would you, if you were the person in charge, would you pick a human being to do a job when you could easily get some software for 1/10 of the cost or less, and the software does a better job more consistently than a human does? Of course, you would pick the technology too. And your boss is going to pick the technology. And if this hasn't already happened to you, your boss is planning on how to do it to you. Okay. So nobody would pick a human being. And you can see this happening in business already, folks. This is not theory. This is happening already. I've told you the story of there was a Burger King and there is a Burger King in my neighborhood, and they put a fence around it because I thought they were about to tear down the Burger King. And this is prime real estate. So I said, whoever bought this real estate paid a pretty penny to get it. And about 2 weeks later, I went past the Burger King again, and the Burger King didn't have the fence anymore, but the Burger King was still there. They hadn't torn it down. What happened is they had remodeled the inside of the Burger King, which I could see through these really big windows that you could see into the store from outside, because there's no reason that I would ever be walking into a Burger King. But I could see from the outside they had remodeled the inside, and the cash register area where there used to be humans taking people's orders and then giving you your food had been replaced by a bunch of big not LED, but just computer screens and boards where you, the customer, goes in and you order your own food yourself. And instead of telling someone what you want, you just push the buttons and then you pay for it right there on the spot. And instead of having 5 people at the registers up front, now they have people in the back making the orders, and there's one person whose job is to grab each order and make sure they give it to the right person who had placed the order. So they took 5 employees and they reduced it down to pretty much one person. That's what's happening. And Burger King is an entry level job. All right, this is what's happening to jobs all over the country, folks. And don't think that it's just based on a computer who can listen and take an order and then send it to the back of the store. This is also happening in places like, I don't know if I was talking to this audience when I said it, but there's a neighbor of mine, he's in real estate. And I was telling him that it's coming, that they're going to be computers and, computer driven machines that can do construction work instead of humans doing construction work. So any of you who works construction want to understand construction pays pretty well on a per hour basis. It's manual labor, and it can be backbreaking manual labor, but it pays pretty well. that companies are going to be using machines to do construction work that they are currently using humans to do. That is coming because, first of all, the machines, minus the humans, are less prone to error. Human beings make errors. Human beings make mistakes. Human beings get tired. Human beings have long days. Sometimes you didn't get any sleep the previous night. Sometimes you're just not paying attention. Computers never make those mistakes. Computers never have any of those things happen. You ever caught a computer not paying attention? You ever caught a computer falling asleep on the job? You ever had a computer call you and say, I can't make it to work today? Doesn't happen. All right, so these things are coming. If they're not here already, they're on the way. And you need to understand this because it leads to why there's not going to be a middle class. Moving on to point number 5. Today's topic, once again, is why there will be no middle class. Number 5, education and healthcare costs are increasing. I already explained to you why the dollar has become less and less valuable each day. So you got to understand that technology and computing power are making it easier for people to learn, to access information, and to solve problems in ways that up until now have required communication with other human beings. You can learn enough to qualify for a college degree these days without ever speaking to a single human being or ever sitting inside of a college lecture hall. You can do that right now. You can take, I believe it's either Harvard or MIT, maybe it's both of them, that they put their entire course curriculum that you would need, like every single course you would need to take and pass in order to get certain degrees. The entire curriculums are available on the internet. You don't have to pay for them. They're available, and they know that they're available. They make them available on purpose. You can actually get the degree, or not the actual degree, but you can have all the information that all the students who are enrolled in school and paying $200,000, $300,000 for a degree, you can have the exact same information completely for free from off of their website. Because the colleges, they're not really selling information anyway. What they're selling, the cost of that tuition, is the prestige of saying that you went to school there and that you know this person and that person, and being able to name drop, I guess we can say, or school drop that you went to a certain place. Is not the information that they're selling. And for all of us, we're not selling information either. What we're selling is the strategies and the systems and the accountabilities and the mindsets around using the information. And information just happens to be a bonus with everything that you're getting. So what this means is that if you are a teacher and that's your skill, is that you can take some information and you can interpret it and explain it to other people, you're going to get replaced if that's all you can do. That's all you can do. Teachers are going to be replaced. So every teacher listening to this, they are looking to replace you. If you're not bringing any soft skills to the table, then just the teaching itself, just the information itself, is not going to be worth much. It's not worth much already. I just talked about this in a series on future-proof skills. All right, these soft skills are very important. If you don't have them, you better get them. If you can diagnose your own sickness and disease through technology that does not require you ever entering a doctor's office, paying insurance copay, having your blood drawn, or talking to the waves of nurses before you actually talk to the doctor, or you don't have to go get an MRI or an X-ray, that means the medical industry is going to face a squeeze. They're going to fight. Trust me, the medical industry will fight really hard, and they will use fear and scare tactics in order to fight. You notice that they do this already. But they're going to lose that fight because more and more people are going to become comfortable diagnosing and figuring out what's wrong with them without ever going to a doctor's office or a hospital, or, again, dealing with the insurance company and the paperwork that comes with it. That is happening already. More and more people are getting open to it. And every time the medical industry tries some more nonsense and more people wake up to the nonsense, fewer people are going to trust that industry. And they're going to start trusting getting information from their own sources. All right, this is happening. And it's going to force a squeeze. And the squeeze is not only going to squeeze on the industry, but everybody who is in the industry. As the education industry gets squeezed, the teachers who work there get squeezed. The maintenance man who works in the school gets squeezed. The lunch aide working in the school gets squeezed. All of these squeezes are happening at all times as humans just have more access to things that they used to need a human being to get. Now they don't need human beings to get it anymore. And the technology is getting better and better to where we less and less need a human being to basically verify or affirm the information that we're getting through technology. So it's making people actually less dependent on other humans, which has some drawbacks, but there are also some positives. I'm kind of telling you both. One of the drawbacks is that if you're one of those dependent on humans, you're not dependent on anymore, therefore you can't charge. And if you're one of those humans that used to depend on others, now you don't have to anymore, maybe that's good for you because you can get your whatever you need, whatever resource, a lot more effectively, not even effectively, but efficiently and easily. And there's less hassle that comes with it. But hey, if you love talking to people, then maybe this is a bad thing for you. You can still keep buying. There will still be humans who will always want to go to a doctor or a hospital or they want to talk to a human who can teach them something rather than learning it from watching YouTube videos. But more and more people are becoming accustomed to the different way, the new way. And you also got to remember that as the older people leave the marketplace, younger people are coming in and they're being raised on this stuff. So someone who's born today, they are going to be raised in this culture where if you had a question, you didn't think of Googling it like most of us do. They would think of going to some AI software like ChatGPT and just asking the question and getting 30 different possible answers, or one possible answer, or one best answer to whatever the question is. They don't Google and then try to decipher what Google shares with them. They get a direct answer coming straight from the AI. All right, there are people who are going to be raised on that, and you think they're going to go and need to talk to a human? Why would I talk to a human when I can just talk to the phone? Why do that? Now, us, we can juxtapose the two because we've been around for both. Those of you who are, let's say, between the ages of 25 and 55. But the younger generation, they don't know that. They don't know anything about that. They want to go straight to the technology. So this squeeze is happening if you didn't know. Point number 6. We're talking here today about why there will be no middle class in the future. Number 6, housing affordability. These are all effects that I'm giving you right now. All the effects of this situation. The cost of building houses could start to go down pending future technology, as I just explained. I think eventually they will go down, just the cost of building a house. It doesn't mean the price of the house when you buy it, though. That's two different things. Because if I can build the house for really cheap, doesn't mean I'm going to sell it for cheap. I might still sell it for the same $1 million as when it cost me 500 grand to build it. It's only costing me 100 grand to build it now because technology has made it easier, but I still might put $1 million price tag on a house. That's more profit for me. The problem with this whole thing is that people who build the houses and own the land or the houses themselves, they don't have to lower their prices just because it's cheaper. Again, all that means is they can make more profit. And America is a capitalistic society. And in a capitalistic society, people prioritize making money. Now, how can I maximize the money that I make? So if the house cost $1 million before, and now it's cheaper for me to make it, I might still want my $1 million for that house. It may be part of my brand that I make $1 million houses and sell $1 million houses. It may just be that I want the money. If you want to call that greed, fine, but it doesn't make me wrong, because if I say it's worth $1 million, if you don't want to give me $1 million, you don't have to buy the house. I can sell it to somebody who will give me $1 million. So we have to keep all these things in mind. Remember that we live in a capitalistic society. And again, people will raise prices if they feel like they can get the money because they're going after the almighty dollar. This is one of the trade-offs of capitalism, is that people will prioritize the money over prioritizing what some of you may call, quote unquote, doing the right thing. I don't agree with that. I don't consider it the right thing to lower your prices because it's cheaper for you to make a product. I consider that we have to keep in mind the first law of economics, which is supply and demand. If there are people who will pay $1 million for a house, I don't care if I built the house for $2. I'm going to charge $1 million because there's somebody out there who will give me $1 million. What's wrong with that? Answer is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, just because you only have $500,000 in your budget does not mean I need to meet your budget. You need to meet my price. Again, we did a whole episode on this. Always be the buyer. Always being the buyer means you look for the person that you want, even if you're the one doing the selling. And you watch one of those real estate reality shows, you see this play out all the time. So there is no such thing as a free lunch, ladies and gentlemen. So even though something may be cheaper to build, doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be cheap to buy. Now, when it comes to most technology, in a general sense, technology is generally cheaper than a human being. So if there's a human that you would hire to edit your videos, you got to pay them a certain amount of money, let's say $100 an hour. But if you were to get some software that can edit your videos, it's not going to be $100 an hour. It's going to be much cheaper because they can scale. They can have 1,000 clients, whereas one human can't have 1,000 clients for video editing because they couldn't get to all the work. But some software can help 1,000 people edit videos every day, all day. So they can charge a lot less because the economies of scale that come with it. So there's a lot of things that we need to keep in mind. The whole point of what I'm sharing here in today's entry into this mini series is that costs are going up or down or staying the same for different reasons that I'm explaining here. And again, the first law of economics is supply and demand. As long as someone is willing to pay, someone will charge it. And the second law of economics is that there's no such thing as a free lunch. So just because something is cheap for someone else to create does not mean they're going to make it cheap for you to get it. So what appears to be cheap may actually be cheap, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some hooks in that bait. Just because something is easy to access does not mean that you got a free lunch. As I said, there's no such thing as a free lunch. So the government controlling your housing, for example, if you happen to get squeezed out of the middle class and become poor, government controlling your housing and access to said housing is the hook that's in that bait when you think the government is giving you something for free. So when Vice President, at least as of today, Kamala Harris announced that if she wins, she's going to give 25K to people for buying a house. Well, the problem with that is people who sell real estate are going to see that. Well, okay, you're getting $25,000 for free from the government. I'm just going to take the price of my house and bump it up $25,000 because all I'm doing is collecting that 25K you got from the government that they printed money on, and then the rest is the budget that you would have had before, right? So you were going to buy a house. You weren't buying a $25,000 house. You want to buy a $100,000 house. You just have 25K extra from the government, so I'm gonna charge you 125 for the house instead of 100. I get that extra 25 that the government gave you, and now we're working with your normal budget, which was 100K to begin with. That's what's going to happen. This is just human nature. This is just simple logic. It's just simple math, and it doesn't make the people who are selling houses bad. It just means that they can do math just like you can do math. And if you're the one selling a house, you want to make money too, right? Okay, so let's not moralize here. This is just how it goes. This is just how it works. And these are some of the things that are going to occur as the middle class gets squeezed. These are some of the things that are occurring that is causing the middle class to squeeze. A better way to explain it. So let's recap this second installment in our ongoing series here, why the middle class is disappearing. Number 4, automation and outsourcing. It is easier to get certain jobs done through technology that doesn't require a human, and through humans who don't require as much money in order to live, i.e. people who don't live in the United States. Those of you who live in the USA, you do jobs that can be done through the internet. Understand there's someone living in the Philippines or Islamabad or India who will take your job, and they only need to make 20% of what you make to live at the same level that you live in their country that you live in this country. All right, they are taking your jobs. Number 5, education and healthcare costs. These are going to come down, I believe, simply because they are not as they do not require humans as much as they used to. These days, you can get a lot of information when it comes to your health, or when it comes to just education, whatever you consider education to mean. A lot of people throw that word around. It means different things to people, but just getting information, let's just call it that. You can get it through technology now, and technology is cheaper than human beings. And number 6, housing affordability. Housing affordability could go down because it will be cheaper to build houses, I suspect, as more technology comes around. But that doesn't necessarily mean the prices of housing are going to come down, because the person who's selling a house might still want the same price they got before. They still have the same house. Just because it was cheaper for them does not mean they are required to make it cheaper for you. Again, this is business. This is economics. First of all, economics is supply and demand. In other words, people will sell it for what they can get, not what they want you to have, not what you want to pay, but what they can get. And that's a whole different thing. Again, remember what we talked about in the episode on economics, is that you always want to be the buyer. I talked about that in episode number 3045, just a couple months ago. All that said, tomorrow we'll be getting into part 3 of the series, which is, again, why the middle class is being squeezed out. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Make sure you have secured me as your coach, your direct coach, to work with you directly to make sure you take your game where you want it to be as quickly as possible, because time is of the essence. That's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all